Over the past 3 weeks of social distancing, I have spoken in person with less than 10 people from our beloved faith communities. Over the past 21 days, I have spoken in person with less than 10 people from both Trinity and Wesley combined. To put this in perspective, prior to the pandemic and social distancing, I spoke with at least 10 people even before our services began at Trinity on Sunday mornings, and I spoke with over 10 people during coffee hour after our services at Wesley. Beyond missing the incredibly beautiful music played by our talented music directors Amy and Mary Francis, beyond missing the ability to speak with our children during children's time, beyond missing your voices when we shared our call to worship and prayed together in unison, what I have come to miss most is seeing you at the end of services. I miss our embraces and handshakes or hugs, and I miss making eye contact with each other as we spoke to one another. Over the past 3 weeks, we, as your pastors, have sought to connect with you by phone calls, emails, text messages, video services, and spiritual practices sent by the internet. Pastor Jessica has been brilliant in her faithfulness, as she has called almost everyone in both faith communities. I have been humbled and privileged to receive your messages and calls as you have updated us on your new norms, shared with us how you have been adapting, spoke honestly about your fears and blessings, and trusted us in conversation with your grief and personal loss. During the past 3 weeks, we have laughed together, cried together, listened empathetically to one another, even FaceTimed with each other just to see one another's faces, all while residing in the mystery and presence of God's grace. And yet, as we have all risen to this moment, I still miss you terribly. Last week, I unexpectedly saw a beloved member in the parking lot at Wesley. Standing 6 feet from each other, we spoke in person for some time. The longer the spontaneous conversation lasted, the more I became aware of my desire to not have the conversation end. As I stood 6 feet from this person, I began desperately to find topics to introduce and things to say. The member may or may not have recognized what was happening within me, but as I stood waving goodbye, watching their car drive away, I named for the first time what I had known for days. I was incredibly lonely. Loneliness is something we all are experiencing in our own ways, in our own lives. Now that routines have changed, job roles have been adjusted or lost, familiar places no longer available to us, and limited in-person conversations with the people we love, we are left experiencing waves of loneliness. It does not matter if this pandemic has forced us into near solitude or introduced more interactions with family in close proximity. Loneliness still resides within us. We experience loneliness in isolation, and we experience loneliness in the crowds of people in our households. The well-defined patterns of our day prior to this pandemic have been disrupted, exposing us to new experiences of loneliness, while also calling into question our identity. So much of our identity is wrapped in the roles and work we perform. Often the follow-up question after introducing ourselves to a new person is either, "What do you do?" or "Where are you from?" The work that we do, the places we go, the people we associate with often define so much of our identity. And in our global crisis, as jobs are changed or lost, as we are now experiencing limited in-person conversations, and as we restrict our travel to and visit with loved ones, our identity, like our routines, have been shaken. I share with you in vulnerability that so much of my early life, I saw my accomplishments as a validation of my self-worth. If I did well, performed well, met deadlines, and surpassed expectations, then I felt I was valued. My performance became an unhealthy proof of my personhood. It wasn't until I had a very challenging series of conversations with a mentor several years ago that I realized that I had put so much pressure on myself throughout my early life because I had fused, if not flipped, the relationship between performance and identity. Our conversations revealed that for so long I believed my performance was the source of my identity, rather than have my identity motivate my actions. I do, therefore I am, now became who I am will be seen in my action. Though this may seem abstract, it was a fundamental shift which exposed me to welcomed relief, peace, and perspective. The reason we began our time together discussing loneliness is because loneliness may be our natural pathway to re-examining how we view our identity. With our jobs changed or lost, as we are no longer able to associate in person with people or places, our loneliness is real, and so are our questions. Who am I, and who did I say I was? I invite you now to ask yourself both questions. Before this time of social distancing, how did I define my identity? And now that I am in a new role, who do I say I am? My prayer, my most humble prayer, is that we discover more about who we are as blessed creation of God in a loving relationship with God through Christ during these unique days. Our world has changed. We are changing. But there is an essence of our personhood that is a part of our identity which will never change. I pray you give yourself permission in grace to have the courage to seek that divine and universal unchangeability within you. I miss you. I love you. May we experience God's love this day or this night, and I hope to see you soon. Goodbye for now.